Hello, fellow dreamers. Welcome to my channel. In my previous and first video, I shared a little about myself. So I am a DACA recipient and graduated from undergrad in 2012. Because of my status, I had many challenges, but I finally had a successful cycle and was admitted into medical school for the fall of 2022. So I have completed my first year, and now I'm a rising second year student, and I will be starting back up this fall. So now it's your turn, dreamers. How have you been preparing for the medical school journey? How has your medical school applications been going so far? And please make sure to share it in the comment section. So in this video, we are going to cover the challenges of applying to medical school as a dreamer. First, we're going to start with a biggie, which is the legal uncertainties. So I'm sure we've all been watching the news to see what's going to happen specifically with DACA and as well with just a comprehensive immigration reform. And as far as a comprehensive immigration reform, we've all seen that nothing has been happening. Everything has been dying in the Senate. But for DACA, there have been a lot of states that are challenging it and are trying to get rid of it, which has prevented new applicants from applying. And like the people or the folks who were older and weren't able to apply when the initial program was started, they haven't been able to benefit from extended DACA. So that has led to a lot of uncertainties with DACA. And knowing that more medical schools are on board with getting and accepting undocumented and DACA students, it's kind of scary to think of where things are going to go if DACA is appended and we no longer have that, because we don't know if schools are going to stop accepting students who do have DACA. So that's something that we're watching for, and hopefully there won't be any changes, even if there are changes in the legislature. Next, we're going to talk about limited accesses to educational opportunities. So I know for me, as an undergrad student, first it was hard to figure out how to pay for school. So I had to have a job. So that prevented me from doing a lot of the extracurricular activities that I would have hoped to do, because once I was done with classes, I had to go to work. And then when I got back home, it was late, but I had to study. So being able to afford school, and undergrad in particular, may limit some of our dreamers from getting into medical school, because you're not able to apply for one undergrad and then get into a pre-medical program. Next, going back to me having to work, it was a lot harder to get internships, especially non-paying internships, because I needed the money to pay for school and to support myself. So getting an internship might be challenging if you need money, and it's might be easier now for DACA recipients, but I know for me at the time, you did need to have a social security card, a social security number, or be a citizen or permanent resident in order to get those paid internships. And research opportunities, if dreamers have to work, that's something else that's harder to do, because the time when you will be at work is the time when you will have those research opportunities. And then lastly, all medical schools do not accept undocumented and DACA students. So that becomes another challenge. So even after you complete your undergraduate studies, you complete the pre-med course and curriculum, it might be hard to get into medical schools depending on where you're applying, because again, all of them do not accept dreamers. Next, we're just going to look at limited resources, again, when you are starting the application process for medical school. So I don't know about you all, maybe you all have money, but I know for me, again, I had to work, but that money was going towards paying for school. So I didn't have the money available to pay for certain prep courses, because they are expensive, like whether you actually take a course in person or online, or even if you're trying to just pay for resources online, those are also expensive. So that becomes definitely a challenge for dreamers, especially if your family or yourself are not financially able to do so. And then there are lack of free resources, or even if you are able to find free resources online or maybe at the library, they may not cover as much as you need to do well and be successful on the MCAT itself. Next, This is a big one. I know a lot of people are concerned about it. That was my biggest concern when deciding when to apply to medical school. Again, I finished in 2012, but I didn't start medical school until 2022 because, again, the money aspect was a big challenge for me. So I decided to work for the past 10 years in order to somehow be able to support myself during medical school and to pay for my studies. So you all probably know that we are not eligible for government funded financial aid programs. So like even if you apply for the FAFSA, most students, including citizens, permanent residents, they apply for the FAFSA and they're able to get loans through the government. Again, so even students who are documented, they take out loans for school. So imagine yourself who you do have to take out loans, but you don't qualify for those loans because you are not a permanent resident or a citizen. So you have to find other ways to pay for school. So that could include finding private scholarships online, for example. And of course, you have to look for the ones specifically that don't have a citizenship requirement. You also might get support from your community, whether that's religious or other groups that you're a part of, and your family. That could be a source of income as well, and help with finances for school. And then if you're like me and worked through undergrad and then took several gap years and worked before starting medical school, you might also have to tap into your personal savings. And but once you figure out your tuition, you also have to worry about other expenses, right? So like living expenses. So especially for those of you who decide to go out of state, now you have to worry about how you're going to pay for housing, transportation, food, because all those, even if your school does decide to give you a tuition scholarship, it might not cover your living expenses. So those are things to keep in mind as well. And then lastly, there are some requirements, or like you have to buy a stethoscope. At least at my school, I had to purchase a stethoscope. You have to buy scrubs. You have to buy certain things for school. Some of them might include study materials, like if you decide to use outside resources like Boards and Beyond, Pathoma, and you'll learn all about all those once you actually start medical school. So those are extra expenses. So you have to think about like how you're going to pay for that. So on top of paying for tuition, how are you also going to pay for all these other living expenses or other like resources that you need to be successful in medical school? All right. This was huge for me. Again, because I took so many gap years, I felt like most of my peers had already gone through medical school, were already in residency, or maybe they just decided not to go to medical school as well. And none of them were in my situation where they were dreamers. So I couldn't really rely on anyone. I had to find my own resources to make sure I had a successful application process. So that was very challenging for me. So as a dreamer, it is important to find some guidance, find some mentorship as you're going through this, because it's not an easy process. You all know that it takes about a year to go through this whole process. So you want to make sure that you have some people in your corner who understand what you're going through or who have been through it, so that they can help you navigate like this year-long process of getting into medical school. And those networks can also have resources to help you, whether that's for studying for the MCAT or letting you know like the different milestones that you need to reach in order to even become a good applicant for medical school. And then lastly, those resources and networks will also be able to give you emotional support, because this is not an easy process. There's so many things you have to do, from studying for the MCAT to applying for the common application. Some of you might have to do applications through your school to get a committee letter. And then secondary take a very long time to do. So you do need support as you're going through this. So my tips for you as you're deciding whether you want to go to medical school or not is to make sure that you apply only to schools that are welcoming to undocumented and DACA students. Because if they're welcoming, they are most likely going to help with financial aid, even if they don't particularly give you money. They might be able to help with resources to help pay for school. And then again, thinking about costs, you want to make sure that you're applying to all of your in-state schools. They are a lot cheaper than going to out-of-state schools, and then private schools as well. From what I've heard, private schools tend to have a lot of money, so they also tend to offer more scholarships to their students. Lastly, make sure that once you do get into medical school, that you reach out to the financial aid office, because again, they'll have the resources that you might need to, one, apply for different scholarships. And I know, for, at least for my school, I contacted them and they told me to apply for the FAFSA. Again, because even though you might not qualify for government aid, there are other things, I guess, scholarships available that you might qualify for, specifically at your school level. So they will guide you through the process of finding money to help you pay for school. And hopefully you'll be one of the lucky ones that gets a full scholarship. I do want to mention that I will be starting a blog because school is starting back up and I don't know how much time I'll have to create new video content. So I will be starting a blog. The first one that I will release will be on Monday. And so the blog name is medfordreamers.blogspot.com. If you ever need resources and I haven't uploaded any videos, feel free to go on my website and just get the resources that you need. And again, reach out whenever. I'm happy to help. I'm here to help you all become successful applicants and successful doctors. And please subscribe. And again, if you have any content that you want me to cover, please leave it in the comment section or reach out to me. And if anything that you want me to add to my blog, also reach out to me and I'll make sure to do that. Thank you so much. Until next time.